Apunte! Consumatum est!
Minsan daw, mayroon isang batang gamo-gamo na naakit sa liwanag ng apoy. Maski anong paalala ng kanyang ina na huwag siyang lalapit sa apoy, ay lapit pa rin siya ng lapit. Gustong-gusto niya ang liwanag ng apoy. Kaya sinuway niya ang piling ng kanyang ina. Lumipad siya ng lumipad, palibot sa apoy. Palapit ng palapit sa apoy. Hanggang sa magliyab ang pakpak niya. At tuluyan siyang mamatay.
Good afternoon, everyone. So this is the presentation of our group, and our topic is Noli. The contents of this report is: number one, information about Noli and its author; number two, implications of Noli and actual situations of the Filipinos in the 19th century on politics and economy and on church authorities; and last, characters on the novel. This chapter will cover about the description of the character, what Rizal is trying to imply with these characters, and relate these characters in modern Filipinos. So first, we will discuss about the author of the Noli Me Tangere. So the author is Jose Protasio Rizal Mercado y Alonso Realonda. He was born on June 19, 1861 at Calamba, Philippines, and died on December 30, 1896 in Manila. He is a patriot, physician, and a man of letters who was an inspiration to the Philippine nationalist movement. Most of his writing was done in Europe, where he resided between 1882 and 1892. In 1887, Rizal published his first novel, which is the Noli Me Tangere, or the Social Cancer. It is a passionate exposure of the evils of Spanish rule in the Philippines. He became the leader of the propaganda movement, contributing numerous articles to its newspaper, La Solidaridad, published in Barcelona. Um, Rizal returned to the Philippines in 1892 and founded a non-violent reform society, which is the Liga Filipina. He founded this in Manila and was deported to Dapitan in northwest Mindanao. Rizal was arrested and tried for sedition by the military. He was found guilty and was publicly executed by a firing squad in Manila. On the eve of his execution, while confined in Fort Santiago, Rizal wrote Ultimo Adios, or Last Farewell, a masterpiece of 19th century Spanish verse. Now we will talk about the novel Noli Me Tangere. There is a saying that literature is a mirror of our culture. Literature is one of the priceless treasures that will change our lives, and we uncover ourselves to the things around us. So, the social cancer, Noli Me Tangere means do not touch me in Latin. In the novel's dedication, Rizal explains that there was once a type of cancer so terrible that the sufferer could not bear to be touched, and the disease was thus called Noli Me Tangere. He assumed that his homeland was similarly afflicted. The story offers both a comprehensive perspective of every level of society in the Philippines of the time and witty humor. Its depiction of the brutality of Spanish rule was a trigger for the movement for independence in the country. The book is written in Spanish, and it is a sweeping and passionate unmasking of brutality and corruption of Spanish rule in the Philippines in 1565 to 1898. Why was Noli Me Tangere written? Rizal wrote the Noli Me Tangere for the benefit of the Indios. Why is Noli Me Tangere banned in the past? It was prohibited during Rizal's time because they were hiding their unlawful acts from the Spanish government. Why is the cover of Nalimitang Hero important to Rizal? So Rizal purposely designed the title to be placed diagonally. As you can see, it was placed diagonally so that it can divide an upper and lower triangle. So this is the upper triangle and this is the lower triangle. The upper triangle represents Rizal's past life. So for example, this one, the silhouette of a Filipina. It is believed to be Maria Clara or as the Inang Bayan to whom Rizal dictates the novel. And this is the lower triangle which represents Rizal's current situations while writing this novel. As you can see, there is a feet that is placed on the base of the triangle, which represents that without friars, the Filipinos cannot stand on their own. And it also symbolizes the power of the friars. And that was it for the introduction of our report. The next topic will be discussed by another member.
The political issues provides three questions. First, what are the social and political issues portrayed in the Noli Me Tangere? Noli Me Tangere Jose Rizal's political treatise analyzes how Spain's colonialism of the Philippines permitted the Catholic Church to govern and rule the regions. Second, what are the impact of Noli Me Tangere to the Spanish government and official? The book had an indirect impact on the Philippine revolutions for independence from Spain, which was also Andres Bonifacio's objective at that time. They advocate direct representation of the Spanish government and a bigger role for the Philippines in Spain political affairs. Third, what is the political message of Noli Me Tangere? Noli Me Tangere by Jose Rizal encouraged us to consider our actions and beliefs in relation to our country. The novel's concept of promoting nationalism and accepting change in oneself is still relevant today.
Implications of Noli Me Tangere on economy. In the novel, one could understand the economic situation of the Filipinos under the Spanish regime, which is really poor. In relation to the actual economic situation of our country today, the lack of proper distribution of wealth is still evident. Although there seems to be a minimal manipulation from the government, the stability has not been achieved yet.
On church authorities, Jose Rizal political novels examines how Spain's colonization of the Philippines allowed the Catholic Church to dominate and rule the religion. Colonialism created tensions that, a decade after Rizal's novel was published, led to the Philippines Revolution, in which Filipino natives revolt against Spain's oppressive religion and government bodies. Rizal demonstrates the shocking extent to which the Catholic friars have commanded the country's politics and culture, manipulating the lives of Filipino citizens in an attempt to assert authorities and influence through Ibarra, the book's protagonist, who returns to the Philippines after spending 7 years in Europe. Rizal depicts the Catholic friars' corruption and unchecked power, which stems not from actual religious zeal, but rather from a love of supremacy enabled and encouraged by colonization. Abuse of power by the Spanish friars and evident early in Noli Me Tangere. When Ibarra returns from 7 years in Europe, he discovers that his father Don Rafael, who openly criticized the church and refused to go to confession, had a falling out with the friars, slandered his name and did everything because of his views on the church and his commitment to helping poor children attending secular schools. The novel shows that the friars have made of the Catholic religion an instrument of domination and have prostituted it with exterior practices which foster the appearance of worship. It shows that the civil guards do not protect the citizens but protect the interests of the friars and the Spaniards.
The novel shows how some Filipinos, contaminated by the airs of superiority of the Spaniards, despite their own countrymen, and make themselves with their pretensions at false imitation.
At this, Rizal tried to show that there was no rebellion or revolution in the Philippines, but that would be if the abuses and excesses of the friars and the administration pushes the Filipino to their limits.
Conclusion. The novel describes real-life events in the Philippines during Spanish colonization, such as the friars' command decisions being more powerful than the governor judgments, general social concern, injustice, and the Philippines as a backward country. The issues in the novel continue to affect our society and our country, and we must learn and read Noli Tangere. The novel's prominent conflicts such as corruption, injustice, poverty, and abuse continue to be an issue to this day. Noli Tangere by Jose Rizal encourages us to consider our actions and beliefs in relation to our country. The novel's concept of promoting nationalism and accepting change in oneself is still relevant today. We must patronize our country by upholding the law, promoting Philippine culture, and attaining the genuine objective of the country by working together to improve it. It instills us the qualities of wisdom, standing up for what is right, and loving our country. This novel is being taught in schools in order to prevent history from repeating itself by teaching our children how to love our country and to empower them as a change agents for our country. Being a true Filipino is what Jose Rizal wishes for us to be. Knowing who we are and what our true goals are will help the country thrive.
Characters in the novel. This chapter will cover about the description of the character, what Rizal is trying to imply with these characters, and relate these characters in modern Filipinos.
Padre Damaso is one of the characters of the novel Noli Me Tangere. He was described as a brash and arrogant priest, a snobbish, ruthless, and a judgmental extrovert. He was also best known as a notorious character who speaks with harsh words and has been a cruel priest during his stay in the town. He is the biological father of Maria Clara and the biggest enemy of Crisostomo Ibarra. Rizal was trying to imply the attitude and cruelness of the Spanish friars during his time with the character of Padre Damaso. The character of Padre Damaso during this present time is like some of the fathers who like opposing the decisions of their children in marriage just because of the misunderstanding between their families. Also, he was like some of the people that will do anything just to satisfy their pleasure even if they knew that it is a crime.
The character describes as mother of Basilio and Crispin. Sisa, also known as the mother of Thebes, the loving mother of two sons, namely Crispin and Basilio. She has a drunkard husband named Pedro. In the novel, Sisa portrays a loving mother, and it could be assumed that Rizal linked her to his own mother and the motherland. Sisa took care of her children and became an outcast when her sons were missing. Crispin and Basilio mother, who goes crazy after losing her boys, Sisa wanders the town and forest in vain, hoping to find her children. Though, when she actually meets Basilio, she apparently unable to recognize him at first. When she does, she dies of surprise and happiness. Rizal tries to imply that Sisa is being maltreated by the Spaniards, just like our country is being abused by the Spaniards. Sisa represented the pain of the lower class of the Philippines. Just like the country, she was incapable of even thinking of standing up for herself. Sisa driven mad by the fate of her sons, which symbolizes the country's condition, at once beautiful and miserable. Sisa as a character represents the immensity of mother's love for her children, but as a whole, she symbolizes for our beloved country. It is wonderful and rich resources. But because of the tragic events in her life, she was ruined and eventually got destroyed. Sisa, though forsaken by all, even by her own husband, treasured her good reputation as a woman and a mother. She was all forgiveness and a love which invited further exploitation. Despite being depicted as a weak character, Sisa is a very courageous mother who would accept any humiliation just to save her sons from oppression. Rizal's implies the character of Sisa represented as our motherland, the Philippines, which is characterized by profound beauty but later on filled with sorrow and suffering. It also represents endured sacrifices of Filipino womanhood and the nation itself, depicting the Filipinos as submissive to all misfortune, yet refusing any degeneration for honor and respect. We can relate these characters to present Filipinos in general as unjustifiable and unfair treatment for justice. This character depicts that if you are in a low class level of a person, you will not be able to receive your rights and other credentials and benefits as a Filipino, unlike those who are in a high class level, because just like Sisa, you will also consider as others and become to set aside because most of the low class people are not educated and unable to stand for themselves. Another one that we can relate this character to present Filipinos in general as is that abuse remains the same as of today by those corrupt politics that continues to seize on the Filipino people. Corrupt politics nowadays serves to be the new colonizers who manipulate Filipinos by taking the money and resources of the Philippines, which must be for Filipino people.
One of the character in Noli Tangere was Elias. So who is Elias? Elias was born to a rich family in Manila with his twin sister, raised by their maternal grandfather. Growing up wealthy, he was initially an arrogant man, but selfless, bound by a code of honor. Renouncing his wealth, Elias ran away with his father and sister, but later on his father died and his sister gone missing and found drowned, so he became a fugitive, wandering around the country. Because of Elias' experiences, he who suffered injustice at the hands of the authorities believes that violence is the only option for revenge. Life was saved by Ibarra. Elias was rescued and saved by Ibarra from the attack of a crocodile by the lake. So as being grateful and to repay Ibarra, he also helped Ibarra multiple times, like how he warned him that his life is in danger. He saved Ibarra from being killed by the derrick operator, and also the warning he gave Ibarra about the attack on the Guardia Civil barracks, helping him dispose the letters that can be used as evidence. Ibarra favors peaceful means, so it had somehow made impact to Elias' perspectives of being violent. Who does Elias symbolize? He represents the common Filipino who is not only aware of the injustices done to their countrymen but would also like to deliver them from their oppressors. Also, he is said to be the personification of Andres Bonifacio. Elias personifies all the virtues of the villager: gratitude, abnegation, sacrifice, and devotion to the country. Like how he devoted the last moments of his life to save the life of the person whom he believed was the only hope for the Filipinos to liberate themselves from their poor condition.
Relate this character to present Filipinos in general. The tragedy of injustice, abuse, and violence that the character of Elias experienced are still present in today's generation. Helping others as well as the act of gratitude is still practiced. Some devoted Filipinos still looked up to sacrificing oneself for the sake of others. Elias did what he believed was right, but today, even people know what's right, they pretended to be blind, scared to let their voice out, for they don't know what may happen after.
Crisostomo Ibarra. Briefly describe the character. Crisostomo Ibarra is a Filipino-Spanish and from a wealthy family. He is the son of Don Rafael Ibarra, who is a businessman, the fiancé of Maria Clara, the daughter of Capitan Tiago. He studied in Europe for 7 years. He proposed to build a school in San Diego. So as you can see, Crisostomo Ibarra is a wealthy family, or came from a rich family. And what was Rizal trying to imply with the characters of Crisostomo Ibarra? Rizal was trying to imply with the characters of Crisostomo Ibarra that Filipino has their own voice from being colonized. He also used Ibarra as the measure of power in the Philippines, meaning it means the person who are willing to fight for their countries. Relate this character to present Filipino in general. So in the characters of Crisostomo Ibarra, he empowering the education is the important element in life. So as young Filipinos for today, we also value the education. And also, Ibarra is the symbolize of nature of power in the Philippines. Filipinos are also willing to fight for their rights in their also in country.
So we're gonna briefly discuss how the novels of Dr. Jose Rizal entitled the Noli Tangere have shown the Filipinos the true spirit of being a Filipino. Okay, so Filipinos are known for being kind, loving, and hospitable. But the true spirit of being Filipino is to fight for injustice, prejudice, and lastly, discrimination to achieve absolute freedom, which is portrayed by Crisostomo Ibarra or Simon in the novel entitled The Noli Tangere of Dr. Rizal.
Hili-hili, tulagan ay walat